We worshiped our way into sanity because your mind can't contain it. And my sisters, I remember the day we came home with that baby a month to the day of her birth. We were coming down that same strip from the hospital with the same CD, the same songs. And we were hollering and shouting and singing how great is our God because the baby was in the car with us.
Yes.
What I want to encourage you is that this is not a test of your desire to be a parent or your ability to be a parent. What you're going through is a test of your faith.
Yes.
It's a test of your walk with the Lord. It's a test of your intimacy with your Father.
Wow.
That's what this is. This is that. This is that. And I was talking to a young lady, and she was telling me how she was really desperate to be pregnant. And she was thinking, but she was speaking to this very iconic speaker, a very iconic inspirational speaker, not a preacher, iconic inspirational speaker. And she was saying to her that, well, you know, these days things are different, baby. Go ahead and get your baby. You know, just ain't nobody gonna care. Just go ahead and get pregnant, like she wasn't married or not, you know. And after the woman left, I said, you didn't seem comfortable with that. I said, are you a believer? And she said, yes. I said, do nothing that is going to violate your values to obtain something that only God can give you.
Yeah.
And I said to her, I said, you know, she said, but, you know, I want to be, I said, you want a child so bad, why don't you adopt? I said, you know how many children need parents? And she said, well, but I want to be pregnant. I said, well, let me tell you something. I said, I want you to think about this. Who's more important here, God or you? He has a way of doing things, right?
Wow.
I said, I said, what I want to recommend that you be married to is the idea of being a parent versus the idea of being pregnant.
Yes.
I said, because years down the road, you ain't going to be sitting there, oh, my God, man, when I was pregnant. No, you're going to sit there and you're going to hold that baby. You're going to be fighting your life for that child. You're going to be spending your life with that child, okay? I said, so the first thing you want to do is get in God's face about what's his purpose and his plan. What's his purpose and his plan? Because if there's a yearning and a desire in your heart to have a child, and you may be figuring out there's one way you're supposed to do it, but have you consulted God to see if there's another way you're supposed to be doing it? Have you said, God, wait a minute, I came to this crisis in my own walk. I'm telling you something that I had to walk myself. After we were. Let's see, it was my fourth IVF cycle. This was 2010. So we were 9 years in. 9 years in. It was still 2010. And I had four failed IVF. I had, one pregnancy, and then I had 3 other failed IVF cycles. So this is after my 4th in vitro fertilization cycle. This is now, I've had 3 myomectomies. I've had 2 additional surgeries because the surgeries, I had small bowel resections because I had complications from my 2nd myomectomy. They had to open me back up 10 days later, cut me stem to stern because I had an obstruction from scarred tissue, from scarring on my small intestine. And I had 21 days in the hospital that time. 5 years later, I had to have another myomectomy, cut stem to stern again, vertically up my belly again. They had to cut out. That time, first time it was 18 inches of my small intestine. Next time it was 6 inches out of my small intestine. My little body, I'm a size 2. My little body had been through it.
Wow.
I've been pumping my drugs, pumping the IVF drugs in my body. I'm basically like emotionally a wreck in terms of, you know, first of all, hormones by themselves are enough. Now you're hyperstimulating. So, you know, you're pumping, you're basically stimulating, not hyperstimulating, stimulating your ovaries. So you're pumping yourself with those drugs, right? Fertility drugs.
Right.
And, my marriage, my husband's like, okay, I'm glad I knew you before we were married. I mean, not before we were married. I'm glad I knew you before we tried to get pregnant because you're crazy. Okay? He said, I'm glad I know this is not my wife because this woman right here, Jesus, is taking everything I got. So anyway.
Yeah.
And I said, God, you know what? I came to the point after I remember I got the results from that fourth IVF cycle, and they said that it was like three embryos, excuse me. And for me, just so you know, I had to go through an extra procedure because called pre-implantation genetic detection, okay? Because there's kidney disease in my family. And I wanted to screen the embryos for that disease because it can be very drastic. 75% it's a very dominant disease. It's genetic, and 75% of the people who have it end up on dialysis. And I didn't want that for my child.
Mm-hmm.
So 3 embryos was not going to be enough. So I hung up I remember getting the call. I hang up the phone, and literally, like everything in you just falls, like drops. Like everything in you just, your whole heart, my heart sunk completely. I hung up the phone. I said, put them on ice. I can't even tell you what to do right now. Just freeze them. And I had to have another myomectomy after that. And I said, you know what, God, I'm at a crossroads right now. And I need to know, Father, I need to hear from you. What's going on? Am I hitting my head against the wall? And are you telling me that I need to adopt? And actually, if I can be very honest, I actually was saying, God, can we adopt, please? I didn't want to go on the operating table another day. I had so many complications when I had surgery, and I knew to have a child, I would have had to have a C-section because of all my surgical history. And I said, God, you know what? I think, you heard, I think I hear the Lord saying adopt. Honey, do you hear him saying that? And my husband was like, no, I don't hear that. And he was like, but I tell you what, my husband really wanted a biological child, but he said, baby, I will support you because you're the one pumping your body with the drugs. You're the one getting on the operating table. You pray, and we'll go with your decision. And I'm going to be honest, I really didn't want it to be my decision. And I really wanted him to tell me what to do because I just, you're in that place where you're like, Lord, just tell me. I just need a word. And so I finally got to that point where I surrendered and I said, God, you know what? I really believe your word. We come to this place. Do you really believe the word of God? And the word says, he says that my plans for you are to prosper you, to give you a hope in the future. His word says, my plans for you are that, what I have for you is exceedingly abundantly above all that you can ask, think, or imagine. Right? His word says that many of man's plans in a man's heart, but it's the Lord's purpose that prevails. Right. His word continues to tell us that what God wants for us is better than what we could want for ourselves. God is good, and he can be trusted. See, this test of faith, there are 3 things that are being tested. Our ability to trust in God's goodness, his wisdom, and his power. Okay? These are the 3 things that are being hinged. Everything we're going through, it boils down to those 3 things. Do we trust in God's goodness, his wisdom, and his power? So when we say, I think, I'm not sure, and I think what I see is the better way, we're not trusting that God's way really is better than we could dream up for ourselves. We're thinking that really what we want for ourselves is better than what that God has set apart, okay? And that's hard because we've got this dream. It's all mapped out. And I say this because at that point, my dream was to adopt, okay? At that point, I said, you know what, God? I could see it. Listen, we always listen, we're adopted into the kingdom. Hello, I'm grafted in. I believe I'm sort of grafted in people, right? So I said, God, I'm not my own. I am bought with a price. I am your child. This is your life. Live through me. Have your way, not my will, God, but your will be done, because I believe your will is better than mine. That's what he's asking. Do you believe your will, his will, is better than yours? His way is better than yours. So it's trusting his goodness, his omnibenevolence. And I promise you, I'm on the other end. I promise you that the future that he has planned for us, that Ephesians 3:20 blessing, it's way better than what you can dream up for yourself. You see, what I went through, everything I went through, I wouldn't have scripted it. But never would have written that out for the memoirs of Gessie Thompson. But if I hadn't gone through that, I wouldn't be talking to you right now.
Yep.
And guess what? That fourth IVF cycle, after I really surrendered and I really was at the point where I really believed, and I said, God, yes, I want to hear from you. Your will, not my will. That is when I got a word from the Lord. He woke me up, and he told me to call a sister friend of mine, and he told me, call her, you're going to talk to her, and you're going to get the answer you need. And sure enough, I got clarity. I was supposed to go one more IVF cycle. And that one more IVF cycle was my baby. That one more was my breakthrough. That one more was Nia. That one more. But I had to get clarity.
Yeah. Wow.
So trust in his goodness. Trust in his goodness that his way, his plan, is exceedingly abundantly above all you can ask, think, or imagine. And then the other thing you can do, you can trust in his wisdom. This means God knows how to get us to the place of a rich, rich blessing. You can wholeheartedly trust the God of the process, even when you can't trace him, as Bishop Jakes likes to say. Bishop, he said that, and it's so true. It's true, because you can't see. You don't see where it's going. I don't see how this fits. Lord, what is it? Let me tell you, none of this I'm going to tell you blatantly clear. Everything I'm doing right now was not anywhere near the plan I have in my life. This wasn't on my radar. You understand? If you've spoken to Gessie about this 10 years ago, this was not on my radar. I was supposed to be the next, what's his name? Russell Simmons. I was in music entertainment talent management. You understand what I'm saying? Like, this was not on my radar. Author Gessie Thompson, what? But God had way more for me than I have ever imagined for myself. You got it?
Yes.
So, Proverbs 3:5 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to him, and he will make your path straight. Now, I know you don't understand why your journey has been hard, so hard. Maybe you're battling fibroids, endometriosis, or something that the doctors haven't even been able to diagnose. And you've experienced difficulty conceiving or carrying the baby. Maybe you've suffered the heart-wrenching loss of a miscarriage or several. Maybe the fertility treatments aren't working. Maybe the adoptions keep falling through. Or maybe you just don't know where to go from here. And I can't tell you what the answer to that. I don't know the answer, but I do know this. I can only tell you what my faith-filled husband said to me when I wrestled with our own path. He said, baby, we don't get to choose the cards we're dealt with. We only get to trust God and receive his grace to help us deal with them.
Wow.
So that kept me from looking at anybody else, because it was me and him. It was us and him. No time to look at anybody else. I can also tell you that if I had not gone through what I did, I would not have the testimony that connected us today. So back to Proverbs 3:5-7, we have to trust the God of our process and lean not to our own understanding. And, in all our ways, acknowledge him means that we seek his counsel, his direction, his instruction, and when we do, he assures us that he will direct our path. That means that don't be afraid to just stop and really seek the Lord for yourself. It doesn't mean that you haven't been praying. Listen, I was praying like crazy, but I needed to just stop and just seek the Lord on clarity and trust him for that direction. See, now, God's ways are not our ways. So the path that he leads us down, and many times, is not the path we would ever choose for ourselves. I told you about not, wanting to adopt, and that's really what I wanted for myself. I wanted to spare myself any more surgery. But that fifth IVF cycle is how I got here, because I did obey, because I obeyed. It was obedience. It wasn't even me wanting to. It was me, once I got the word, I obeyed, and I knew that he gave me a word. The thing is, I didn't skip the rest. After that, my baby had to fight for her life in my womb, but because God had given me a word right after I got that confirmation, the word to move forward, he gave me a word from my godmother. She had been in a prayer meeting, and the word was, you will be holding your baby this time next year. And it would have been literally, when she gave me that word, she didn't even know I'd gone through that whole thing seeking the Lord. Am I going to be, go through the next IVF? And based on the IVF cycle that we were going to start, our baby would have been a month old at that point. So God gave me this word. Oh, I'm going to be holding my baby. Oh, wonderful. So I thought he was just saying, yes, you made the right decision. Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't know that at 21 weeks, the doctors were going to tell me you might want to consider terminating your pregnancy because you developed a condition called fetal growth restriction, where your child is not growing at the proper rate. So your womb is going to become a hostile environment, causing you to labor preterm. But she was so small, even for the gestational period, that she was just not viable. And I remember saying, I knew I had that word, healthy baby, healthy mommy. I was going to be holding my baby a year from that time frame. And that word became my anchor. I said, God, I told that doctor, I said, no, we're people of faith. We believe God. We believe in a miracle-working God. And sure enough, my daughter wasn't born until 32 to 33 weeks.
Yeah.
That was at 21 weeks. So the bottom line is, not only do you have to trust his wisdom and his goodness and his power, is that trusting in his power is knowing that not only does God know what's best for us, and he knows how to do it, but he has the power to do it. With man, it's impossible, but with God, all things are possible.
All things, yes.
Right? So trust in the path to your miracle is trusting and celebrating God's goodness, his wisdom, and his power. And I know that it's not a pat answer, but what that means is that whatever you're facing every day, whatever your moment, your place, your steps, the place and the journey that you're in, it's really about your walk with the Lord. Father, what am I supposed to be doing now? Show me, direct me. What's the overall? What is your place? What is your plan? In the book, we have stories of adoption and miracle births in terms of biological births and all of this, because the truth is God's plan looks very different for many people. But the one thing I can assure you is, no matter what it looks like, it's better than you could ever dream up for yourself. I want you to really hold on to that. because that's how you can exhale and really trust and allow him to lead you.